And I believe we are now live. Welcome. Welcome everybody to our digital marketing masterclass, how to map the customer journey and create effective marketing content for it. It's a live demonstration with one of our top instructors, Bernadette Chambers, who is also the founder of the Socialite Hive, and more about her in a moment. My name is Stuart Creek. I'm a marketing manager here at Simplilearn. I'm going to be behind the scenes logging your questions for Bernadette for the Q&A. Please put those into the Q&A box in WebEx, as you see in the controls here. You can put in chat messages, which we will see, but for the questions for Bernadette, best place to put them is in Q&A. And we'll queue those up and get to them in the Q&A part of the event. We also have a few polls that we would like to do. And we're going to start with one now, which is very simple. We'd like to know how much work experience you have. Get an idea, a feel for the audience so that Bernadette can address it properly. And also we ask how you're doing today. It's something we've been asking throughout the pandemic, just to see how people are holding up as things keep shifting. And hopefully we're getting to the end of this latest surge, and hopefully we'll be in a quiet period. So checking in with everyone, and we'll end the poll in 5 seconds. And here is the result. So we have a pretty even distribution of folks. About a third of you are seasoned professionals in the 10+ year category. About a quarter of you are still in university or college, and there's a even distribution of people between. So with that, and with the fact that almost everybody's doing well or doing okay, we hope that this session will improve the outlook for people who are in that third category. And with that, I'm going to introduce Bernadette. Bernadette Chambers is, as I mentioned, the founder of the Socialite Hive. She's an entrepreneur, a social media marketing consultant, an internationally recognized digital marketing trainer, works with many of our top programs here at Simplilearn, an expert in SEO, especially for social media. And she has a 11+ year background, and we're very fortunate to have her here today. So welcome, Bernadette, and I am going to turn it over to you. Yeah, I hear you now.
Excellent. Hi there.
And I see you. Okay, and I'm going to shift sharing to privilege to you so that you can share your screen.
Okay, excellent. As soon as I see it, then I will hit the button and we'll get started.
And you have it now.
Excellent, thank you. Well, hello everyone and welcome. I hope that you all are having a great day. And as Stuart said, we're going to be talking specifically about the key elements of mapping out your customer journey. And as many of you know, the customer journey in terms of how people become customers in business, in most of anything, has dramatically changed. And so this graphic that you're seeing right now is from Cinch Digital. And the reason why I pulled it is because it used to be defined as 3 different points: awareness, consideration, and then the decision-making process where a purchase happens. Now there are several different points. Sometimes a customer can go through almost 120 plus points before they actually make a decision. So, this element of your business, of your organization, or wherever you land on the totem pole is super important so that you know exactly how to plan these things. So, hopefully, you gather a lot out of that. And just to reiterate what we're going to be talking about, today we're going to be discussing or understanding the various touch points in the customer journey, using competitive research to support the findings, how to effectively pinpoint the appropriate content types for the journey. And then we're going to make the most of nurturing the relationship to increase customer engagement. So, those that don't make the decision to make a decision right away, we're going to use what we have in order to continue to nurture them down the pipeline so that we can get them to make a decision later on. So, really quickly, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to shift from thinking about your companies and the various products that you offer. And I want you to shift to the customers. What are some things, just in general, you can type them in the chat or you can just kind of think about them, but what are some things that customers typically think about before they arrive at your solution? You can type it in the chat. I'm going to use the example of meal prepping and meal delivery service for our demonstration here. It's easy, it's quick, and it helps people to stay in mind. Price. Do they always think about price? So this is what we're going to talk about today. How to get it as cheap as possible. So typically when people go to Google, the first step is the how. How are they going to achieve something? And who's going to provide them with the possibilities of what to achieve it with? Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat. It is usually not price. Price is a non-factor in the beginning of the customer journey. They look to find answers. So in our example, I'm going to use HelloFresh. And one of the problems that meal prepping and these types of services solve is the difficulty of planning meals, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm putting myself in the mindset of the customer and I want to figure out what is the problem that I'm looking to solve. Usually in meal prepping, you're not sure what to eat. You're tired of eating the same things. You don't want to spend money. Yep, that's correct. Convenience. You don't want to spend money on fast food. You want to actually cook healthy meals for you and your family. So as a marketer, I'm going to begin to think like a customer. And the first search term that I'm going to put in is I'm going to put in how to meal plan easily. How to meal plan easily because I want it quick, I want it fast, and I want it easy. I don't want to be burning things and all of that. And then I have to start all over and buy fast food anyway, right? So as I'm going here, one of the things that I'm also going to do is I'm going to engage in the people also ask section. Are you all familiar with the people also ask section? Let me know in the chat. All right, excellent. The people also ask section is a really great tool that everyone has access to use to understand what types of questions that our audience is going to have in the awareness stage. In the awareness stage, because when we go to these, we're going to determine which type of questions are in the awareness, which type of questions are in the consideration, which types of questions are going to be in the decision making process so that we can appropriately assign whatever content that we need to create internally to guide our customers down this path. So in the people also ask section, you have how do I make my meal plan easier? What are the 5 basic steps of meal planning? How do I create a food plan? How do I make my weekly plan? So all of these questions here, and you'll find if you click on this, more questions are going to populate. More questions are going to populate. But you want to stick to questions that you know the ordinary person is going to choose, right? The ordinary person is going to choose. So at this point, I'm going to introduce this little graphic to you, because as you're doing this research, you're going to be basically tallying where you're going to put these questions. So in the awareness phase, there could be goals, or there could be some light goals that you're trying to make, from light to heavy, from least important to most important. So at this point, you want to collect all of the questions that relate to this area so you can figure out exactly what type of content is going to suffice, right? So I'm going to open up my little notepad here, and I'm just going.
You've frozen momentarily. It should come back. Bernadette's connection is frozen for just a moment, so let's wait for her to come back.
Internally, yes.
Okay. You're back. You were frozen just at the moment you said, let's open the notepad.
Oh, okay. All right. So sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Probably was doing too many things. All
Okay,
right.
here
So
you
what
go.
I was saying was, it in the featured snippets, it takes roughly 10,000 to 100,000 searches within a certain amount of time in order for Google to deem these snippets inside of the people also ask section. So those of you who are responsible for SEO in your organizations, you want to try to get someone who is skilled at or has the skill set to get you in the featured snippets. So one of the things to note, I'm going to open up my notepad here, is of course probably roughly around 4 to 5 different questions that we see here. First question, and I make a note of that real quick. Oh, it's thinking.
And by the way, you might want to turn off your camera, Bernadette, because I think we're getting occasional hiccups,
Okay.
and you can reduce the bandwidth there.
All right. All right. I'm going to turn the video off so that way it doesn't. So, how do I make my meal plan easier? How do I create my food plan? So this is another good one. Usually the awareness section is going to focus on the how, not the what, not the price, not any of these things. And your job at this point, whether it be in video, whether it's answering these questions. Okay. The what, maybe, let me see if I can find one other question before I move. Gonna move into the next one. How do I make my weekly meal plan? Okay, this one's pretty good. All right. So this I would characterize as my awareness stage. Awareness stage. Now, in consideration, at this point, you're starting to see some of the articles that come along here, right? Come along here. Now, right here at the top, you'll notice that there's an ad here. There's an ad for HelloFresh. And basically, it starts to answer those questions that those folks would ask. So, tired of takeout, getting sick of grocery shopping? Try HelloFresh, get 15 free meals. I'm going to highlight this bit of information because this is a key performance indicator or a KPI of a really great offer that will catch the attention of those folks who are looking for alternatives to takeout, who are looking for alternatives to whatever it is that they're looking for in meal planning. Because at this point, we don't know whether or not our customers are looking for meal ideas to go grocery shopping or for us to provide it for them, right? Now, in the consideration, at this point, they're looking for the best solutions. So at this point, I have to get into the mind of the customers to find out what is the best solutions for grocery shopping, what's the best solutions for meal planning, what is the best alternative for some of the elements that I might find cumbersome, right? So I'm going to go here, best alternatives to grocery shopping, right? So here's some ideas. What's the most efficient way to grocery shop? What's the least popular grocery shopping day? What's on the grocery list? Affordable alternatives to grocery shopping. These are all options that we can use to target some of these folks that want to know, okay, all of these plans in the first of how to do my meal planning, it requires grocery shopping. How can I get rid of that? How can I get rid of that cumbersome element, right? So what you see here is you see a switch. Does everyone see that? Now you see from the how to what and which. Do you guys see that? When you see search terms like this, you can start to kind of assimilate and start to kind of see, okay, these types of questions means that this consumer or this customer has now moved from awareness to now deciding which one is going to be best. So you now have which online grocery is the best, which grocery delivery app is the best, which online grocery shopping is cheapest, all of these different things. And if you scroll down here, who do we see that's familiar that we saw in the first part of the journey? Let me know here in the chat. Who do you see that's familiar? We see HelloFresh. They're right there in present. The ad of HelloFresh, they're right there in present because they're again sending that message that, hey, now we know that you're looking for grocery shopping, and they made sure to put in here the actual issue, getting sick of grocery shopping. Do you see how the messaging changed from the first message to the next message? That's how you know that this is moving down the pipe. Okay, so I'm just going to choose the which. So if I were a customer, at this point, I've seen HelloFresh twice. So now at this point, I want to start looking at maybe some reviews. Okay, I've seen HelloFresh twice. I'm probably going to start getting at this point, I'm probably going to start to get social media ads. I'm probably going to start to get, little messages. Let me see what the reviews are. Usually, and think about how you guys look for products and services, right? Think about how you kind of approach that area. And when you're approaching a specific area and you see a company or a service provider or a particular product, what's the next thing that you do? What's the next thing that you do when you see that product over and over and over again? That's correct. We're going to the reviews. So since we've seen HelloFresh, I'm going to start going to HelloFresh reviews. Okay. And lo and behold, look what we have here. This is what I call the strong consideration phase. Now, notice something. One of you, a few of you said that you saw price in the beginning. When we did the consideration phase, did we see price in the people also ask section? And if not, what did we see? We didn't see price. We saw the how. They were attempting to find out how exactly we were going to accomplish solving our issue. Now we're starting to see them move into price. So we have here reviews. We want to see what are the reviews? What are the types of content here? So in this particular case, blogs such as review blogs or taste tests or customer testimonials, these are going to be pivotal for all of these questions, right? So we see here, I tried a meal prep service for a week. Here is what I thought. Then we see here, is HelloFresh actually good? And there is an article from the honest customer giving that person the answer that they want. How much does HelloFresh really cost? HelloFresh themselves has a blog post that they have created for that particular customer. Is HelloFresh actually affordable? You've got HelloFresh here still meeting their questions because they are now in the consideration slash decision making phase. Does everyone follow me so far? Let me know in the chat. So ultimately, this is the way that you're going to start mapping out and creating what it is that you're going to be focused on in each step of the journey. And if you are not the actual company, then you're going to look at competitors like I did here. If I was doing a delivery service, if I was doing a delivery service or I was doing something to that effect, then I would use these types of things to craft how I'm going to come up with my content. I want to go back to the graphic that I showed you before, because when you're creating your customer journey map, these are the various areas that you want to consider and you want to create. I'm also going to provide you guys with a link with a really good article from Hubspot that actually shows you guys how you can map them out. They give you like a blank tool that you can fill in. But as you can see here, you see the customer activities. They'll hear something from a friend, they'll see it online or offline, they'll read newspapers, they'll do all of these different things. Then they go in and compare the alternatives, which is what we saw here. So then you start to see search terms like best meal delivery service. So you'll do best meal kit delivery service. That's some of the search terms that you're using. Next, you want to come to the decision. So you want to bring them to the place. You want to bring them to the place where they're making the decision and they have an offer that they can't refuse. When they get to the decision making process and they get to your website, you want to bring them to an offer that they can't refuse. So after we're done with this infographic, I'm actually going to show you how HelloFresh does a really beautiful job at this process. Then after they've made the decision, now it's time for the actual delivery or the fulfillment of the service that you want. And then you want that same customer to re-engage back with these great reviews that we read from here. So you kind of see the customer goals, you see the find the best solution, find the products, order effortlessly. You see the various touch points like word of mouth, the website, the app, the delivery service, phone, email, or chat. You see all of these things here. You also see where the experience is. So you want to know exactly from start to finish what they feel. So that way you can use those key points to ensure that you're delivering on every part of the process. And by this time, when you're looking internally, and I'll get to questions in a bit, I saw a few of you had some questions. We'll get to those in a little bit. But when you're addressing the experience and the customer journey and you're mapping that out, it's important for you to look internally to see where certain bottlenecks might be in order for you to address those so that you can continuously move them down the funnel. If there is a specific part of the process where you feel like you're not meeting the goal, you're not meeting the customer expectations, then you want to explore that. The next part is you've got to align the customer journey with the business goals. And as you see here on this graphic, I'll try to make this a little bigger for you guys so you can really see. You want to align the business goals with the customer goals, but still keeping the customer at the center of that business goals. So if you're doing increase awareness, what are some ways you would think that HelloFresh might, let me try to make it, it's kind of pixelated whenever it gets bigger. Can you guys see it a little better? It's a little bit blurry, but I'll read what it says. Okay. So the business goal here is increase awareness and interest. So what kinds of things would you see in this particular process? If I'm trying to increase awareness as HelloFresh, the company, what are some things that I would actually see in this process? I'd probably see a bunch of how-to videos. I'd probably get in my TikTok feed, people actually preparing the meals. I would actually see, their unboxing process. So I would see like what types of things that I get in the HelloFresh kit, and so on and so forth. So, as you're thinking about that, or as you're thinking about the various stages, you want to look to see what types of things that you want to craft. Do I want to do a video? Do I want to do a blog post? Do I want to do, yes, I can provide the link after we're done. I want to see if I want to make any types of infographics, things like that. So, let's take a look at one, the offer, and two, the type of content and how we measure whether or not it's going to be successful for us. So I'm actually going to go to the HelloFresh site. Another way to do this, they have it to spend, but we can also go to the actual ad and click on the ad. It probably wouldn't cost them all that much money anyway. Maybe $1. Probably cost them $1 to click on this. Oh, it's still thinking, taking a little while. Oh no. Let me try and refresh and see. Sorry about that, guys. Here we go. So what's the first thing that we see as it relates to the customer journey things that we talked about earlier from the questions that we had? What is it that we see right off of the bat that addresses some of those things that we saw in the customer journey process when we were looking towards Google? What do we see? Convenience. Take the stress out of mealtime. The layout. I can see their plans. I can see what it is that they offer. I can see why I should choose them. So no skipping on meals. I can see your chats. It's okay. You don't have to say out loud, but I can see your chat. So no skimping on certain parts of the meals. No commitment whatsoever. The most five-star reviews, fresh and affordable. What I really love about what they've done here is all of the things that you and I on this webinar have talked about in the process of what you need to see to make a decision as a consumer. They have it right here on the front part of the page. Then it has what's inside of the box. So they know straight out of the gate before they press to add to cart. They know what it's going to come in. Easy to follow recipes, high quality ingredients, convenient meal kits that fit perfectly in the refrigerator, a fun cooking experience that makes you feel unstoppable. I've literally seen kids on YouTube cooking HelloFresh meals. Then, of course, they have based on what people want to choose. Do you want meat and vegetables? Oh, do you want meat and veggies? Do you want something family friendly? Do you want vegan? Do you want fit and wholesome? Whatever your meal preference is, these are things that they have organized so that you can look at the menu. The other part that they have that's really amazing is the social proof. Look at this little kid here. He's helping make dinner. He has his little knife and chopping up things. He has his chef hat on. The dog's over here with the recipe card. There's families here. This stokes the emotion of my family and I can have family time together. We can really get together and make these meals and not feel overwhelmed with what's for dinner. It's really a team sport when it comes to HelloFresh. And of course, there's other questions that back up the exact questions that they see online. So, how does HelloFresh meal kit delivery service work? Which food meal plans and recipes do they offer? How many times a week? All of these different things. So, once the customer gets to this website, This is the part that I shared with you all, where it's really a nurturing process after this. They're really doing a really great job here of nurturing folks. But let's say, for instance, for whatever reason, all of this stuff, they get distracted, they decide they're not going to go for it. Let's take a look at what the channels that they're actually on, what do these things look like? So let's start off by going to their Instagram. We'll take a look at Instagram. Now, if your company or your service is on these social media platforms, regardless of what it is, you want to look at the highest engaging content that is created, and you want to recreate it with your company's voice, branding, captions, and things like that. And here are the things that you want to make note of when you're doing this, right? So let's say, for instance, I'm looking for some highly engaging content here. So I'm looking for things that have high comments, high likes, views, things like that. So I notice here right off of the bat, they have, yep, I know, I choose this on purpose so that you'll pay attention. So right here in the section, we see that this image here has 519 likes and 12 comments. So we'll go here and we'll look at that specifically. I guess I have to log in because they won't let me get away with not being logged in. So too bad. Oh, I'm on a different device. Let's go to Reels because I don't have time to do all of the login and stuff like I would in my class. But if we're going to Reels, which by the way is a very popular piece of content that's kind of being spread throughout all social media channels, I would go to some that has some really, really high engagement. So this would be a really great example of really high engagement. This would also be an example of really high engagement. And if you notice, their post versus their Reels have higher engagement and higher views than some of the posts do. So if I were in the marketing manager seat or you were in the marketing manager seat, what piece of content would you focus the most on? Would you focus on the reels or would you focus on the posts? Absolutely. The reels. The reels, they're not paying for these views. They're not using budget and money to get attention for this stuff, right? They're literally getting organic views from people who are just interested in what those folks have to say. So while I would still do my posts, I would focus and bring the company towards reels. Okay. Let me just dive into a few of your questions, not too many. Is the Reels open for all or a specific company? Reels and content like that is open for any specific company. It is not unless you have some sort of a restriction on your account. You can definitely go in and do Reels. And it does not matter if you have a consumer good or you have a service. Any opportunity that you get to show someone the how and capture their attention, then you can do anything else to bring them down the customer journey. Remember, the awareness stage in the customer journey starts with the how. How is this service or this product going to bring me to the point where I am actually solving my problem, or I'm one step closer to solving my problem, or what have you? The other thing that I want you guys to mention in terms of reels is I want you to look at the angles that these things are shot. And as you see the view count and some of the engagement count go up, you start to see top view shots. These top view shots are what get people interested to even click to press play on some of these reels. So anything that highlights the product, and you want to use the same kind of methodology of researching in your respective field. So while we're just using this as a demo example, you want to go to your field and see on the platform that you think that you're going to get the most engagement on. You want to see what type of content is performing well right now. as opposed to going in and trying to reinvent the wheel. The next place that I know, and this will be the last one just for time's sake, I could go on and on about this all day, but unfortunately, I don't have the time. We're going to go to Pinterest because I know for sure that HelloFresh has kind of an audience there. So we'll go to Pinterest and we can do some research on Pinterest to see exactly what types of images, what types of content is performing well on Pinterest. So right here, we can go and type in HelloFresh. And we can do HelloFresh USA. And then we see here that they have 97.1 followers. Is everyone able to hear me okay? I got someone that's saying my voice is breaking up. Everyone can hear me? Might be the connection on your end. Everyone's saying that it's clear. So you want to see here, look again, you see a pattern. You see a pattern with how they have this content laid out. And the content is laid out with all of these top shots that you see here, starting with the food, starting with all of these different areas. So you know if you're in the meal delivery service that any type of content that you put out, you want to lead with something that's appetizing. You want the customer to engage in the content right off the bat. So unfortunately, my presentation has to come to an end, but I'm going to leave you with this one point. This is the customer journey map from HubSpot. I am going to share this link with you so that you know exactly how to access this. You download it to your Google Drive. You may have to fill in some small information, but this is absolutely free and it does come from HubSpot. And basically, it prompts you into all of the different areas that your potential customers could be thinking about. Now, the ones that I find highly helpful for people who are in the service and product industry is Customer Journey Map 6 and Customer Journey Map 9. The day in the life, ask what is the customer thinking? What are their main priorities? What are their biggest pain points? How do they interact with the product or service? How can our product be better utilized? These are questions that you can use internally as prompts with your teams in order for you to go in and find out what's the best type of content that we need to provide to ask some things like this to be able to drive our audience down the customer journey so that they can make a final decision. And this is again, this is a really great tool. HubSpot does an incredible job of giving us these prompts. You can also use tools like Miro and things like that. But ultimately, the one thing that you want to keep in mind here is when the customer journey starts, usually the mindset is the how. Then in the consideration phase, it's the what and which one. And in the decision making phase, at this point, we're going in to look at what types of offers, what am I willing to spend, and all of those different areas. And at that point, you should be thinking about infographics, blogs, content like you saw HelloFresh do here. You want landing pages that drive them down that process. I hope that this was informative and that you learned a lot. Now I'm going to go ahead and open the floor up for questions and get you guys these links in the chat so that you're able to engage.
Great. Thank you, Bernadette. That was a marvelous presentation. A great lesson that you're taking through, and a number of the people in the audience commented that they loved your energy and the fact that you went right into the good stuff. So I've got some of their questions queued up here. One of them from Jerem is, what are the key digital technologies that people can use to support customers moving along in the journey?
So one of the things that I would definitely suggest is having some sort of a mapping process, a chat process inside of your website. Also anything that responds, so autoresponders on social media, really understanding your heat map of your website and what people are actually clicking on. You also want to measure the engagement and the analytics on your social media channels just in case, because you should at this point be retargeting folks that are visiting your website, whatever process in the journey. And you also want to make sure that you're using things like a really big trend that's happening right now in digital marketing is like AI tools to determine like what people are looking at. So you might want to research those. But ultimately, the main thing is heat maps to help track where people are clicking. You can also utilize just basic tools like Google Analytics and really understanding what pages they're visiting the most and things like that.
Great. Um, but Yashri asks, how do you know as a marketer that your customers are moving? Uh, okay, let me read the question directly because I
Sure.
don't want to paraphrase. It says, "Hi Bernadette, how do I know that the customers from my website are moving from an awareness phase to a decision-making phase?"
Well, one of the things is that you have to have the content to support where they're going. And the types of questions and the type of pages that they visit are going to shift. Now, over the last 10 years, there are several different types of code and tools that you can put into your website that actually screen records what customers are doing. And then you can tell where the hiccups are. It does take a little bit of back work to just try to figure out, but let's say, for instance, I'll just give you just a surface. Let's say, for instance, I'm a customer with HelloFresh. I've gotten to the website and I go to how many times a week they deliver. Well, the heat map is going to pick up on how many of those customers are clicking here. The heat map is going to tell us where they're clicking. If they go to view our plans, they're really moving down the funnel. But if they're clicking on more questions, they still haven't quite decided if we're a good fit for them, right? If we see in the heat mapping that they're going into family friendly, or they're clicking on, what types of meals, or they go to our blog or things like that, then we know for sure that they're still in the consideration phase. But if they, for whatever reason, on first try, start to go into more purchase type actions, such as registering or putting in their address or add to carts or checking out, then we know for sure that that person has moved from considering to actually making a decision. They just might have gotten lost along the way.
Okay. From our LinkedIn audience, Esha has two questions that are great. One is, who are the correct set of people in your organization who should get involved in the process of customer journey mapping?
That's a great question. I would say anyone who is on your email marketing team, anyone who is responsible for web development, so creating the landing pages, anyone who is responsible for the media buying, so paid marketing. If you have an SEO person, they need to be in on the mapping of the customer journey as well. Any type of content writers or blog writers, all of these folks are going to be in this meeting because they're all going to be identifying what stages the customers actually go into and what types of content need to meet them at the various stages. Then they will come in with their measurement tools so that you as the marketing manager knows exactly what the messaging is and whether or not you're meeting your goals. You should be looking at how many people are getting stuck in the decision-making phase. Is the offer pungent enough? Are we really giving those folks an offer that they can't refuse? I mean, get 16 free meals with your purchase. That that in and of itself is is an offer that one can't refuse. So hopefully that kind of clears up who you should reach out to.
Okay. And she also asks, do customer journeys represent ideal scenarios of how the customer thinks? And how do you make them flexible enough to um, represent what happens when somebody goes off that ideal path?
Well, the beauty is that anything in this industry is flexible. And while the customer actions can be predictable after a while, you might always you never know when you're going to get a wrench thrown in the path, right? But ultimately, we have enough data as marketers and we have enough tools as marketers to always re engage the large majority of our audience. So if you're losing people at the add to cart phase, someone on your team should be able to identify why. Maybe the offer is not clear enough. Maybe there's a bug in the website. Maybe there's something going on. But for certain, when you identify where they're going off the path, it makes it easier for you to kind of troubleshoot and respond and address those various areas so that you kind of keep them in like a troubleshooting manual, if you will, for the various personas. And you can have several different customer journey maps for the various personas that you have within your organization. You don't have to have one cookie cutter. This is where you would sit down with your teams to determine if I have, Nancy's who's 35 with 3 children versus John and Sally who are a newlywed couple. Does that make sense?
Hmm. And thank you for that. The Mukesh asked a couple of questions. One is this advice, is this lesson applicable to all sizes of companies, or is it more applicable to a large company versus a small one?
Um, when you think about That's a really great question. And when you think about companies, I always ask my students, do you do business with the company or do you do business with people? And the answer should always be I do business with people. So it doesn't matter the size of the company, it doesn't matter the service of the product. The product is solving a problem for someone who is in direct line with the purpose of that product. So when you're doing methodologies like this, you always want to think about how does our company, how does our product or service solve the problem for the consumer? Who is paying our bills essentially? And how do they become one of those persons who is actually now exchanging money with us versus just researching about us? That's essentially where you start, because I see a lot of questions about where do I start? How do you as a consumer become just someone who's researching online to whipping out your credit card and paying the price? It doesn't matter how big it is. It doesn't matter if it's B2B. It doesn't matter if you're servicing CEOs or accountants or whoever, whatever service or product that you provide, it is solving a problem for X in that organization. And you have to segment and take the time to segment what those things are, which would mean that you have to kind of map out and journey out the day in the life of that person, which HubSpot does a really great job of you kind of looking at what those pain points are.
Hmm. That kind of relates to the question Phoebe asked, which is, does the customer journey help determine the buyer persona for the brand, or is it possibly the other way around?
Actually, you would build the buyer persona first, because then the customer journey actually takes that person. Think of it as kind of a cartoon. You have to build the character first. Then you go into, all right, now that I've built this character, I know that she's between the ages of 25 to 35. She's a mom. She has this responsibility, that responsibility. Now you're going into the day of the life. So now you're walking with this particular character. I do know some marketers that do the day in the life first before they build a persona, but I kind of find that if you don't necessarily have a prototype, then you can't really research and find out what they're feeling. And another really great tool of kind of finding out how they arrive to the point that they become customers is definitely positive reviews, because people take the time out to tell you, I was thinking about new ideas for things and stumbled across an ad for HelloFresh, or stumbled across an ad for um Green Chef or whatever meal plan service. I didn't know if I was going to order. You start to craft those different emotions inside of your journey so that you know what to meet them at.
Okay. Interesting question from Praharsh, which is, if I already have a website and I want to implement a funnel model in the website for SEO, what changes should I look at making? What can I do, and how would it affect my website ranking if I make these changes?
That's a really great question. The way that the big boys do it is they have a landing page, which later on takes them to the website. It is easier, more cost effective, and does not change your ranking if you already have a website ranking to do a landing page. It also condenses the information that you have because while websites are excellent tools to bring the customers down the journey, a lot of times it has so much information that it's overwhelming. You have to think when people are researching stuff, what's the main place that they research from? Probably 90 to 80 to 90% is going to be from their mobile phones, which you are competing with notifications, text messages, all of these different things. So having a landing page will help you to kind of condense the information down, bring them down to the process. Once they've gotten, once they have provided you with their information, then you can redirect it to your web page, and that way they can have more time to kind of look at more information that you have to offer.
Okay. I do want to ask a question from Pratik, which is generally, what is the scope of digital marketing as a career?
Oh my. So
Yeah.
digital marketing has several different disciplines and domains. It splices out to about 9 of them. And as a marketer myself, while I am very familiar with all domains in the digital marketing space, my top favorite and most easiest, in my opinion, is consulting and media buying. Media buying actually brings a lot of straightforward actions. I can calculate revenue better, but you're looking at email marketing, SEO. We now have AI and AI interpretation. You have text message marketing, you have web development, you have social media and social media engagement. You have now content creation. Content marketing is taken a huge boom. You have influencer vetting and influencer marketing. A really great place to understand what the career looks like. If you go to LinkedIn and you type in digital marketing where the jobs are, you'll see the various things that they're asking for, that companies are asking for. And that'll help you to determine where, if you're a beginner and you have no idea where to get started, look for the types of things that they're looking for. Look for the types of jobs that they're looking for, the types of skill sets, collaboration, link building, content marketing, pay per click, retargeting. All of these areas are areas that you can say, all right, the majority of the jobs in my area now, I'm in the US, but some of you are in other countries. Change your country and look at what types of things that you see kind of a trend for, maybe source like maybe 10 to 12 job postings, and whatever you're seeing a trend with, that's the ones that I would go with. That's the skill sets that I would go to train myself or educate myself on in order for me to be competitive in this space. But it can be as broad as you want it to be, and it can also be as defined as you want it to be.
Okay. Very good. Just a couple more questions before we have to wrap up. Um, May Anna asks, how often should you update your content? How often should it be posted and shared?
I would say monthly. I would say that you should make out a 30-day calendar, measure what's working and what's not, and create as much as possible. Content is very, very important in this space because that's how the customers engage. If you're wanting to compete on platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, things like that, you got to be cranking out content weekly because when you slow down on your postings, and I'm not saying that you have to do it all in 1 week. You can do it for a 30-day calendar, but at least be posting at least once a day. But you want to be on top of it because when you're not engaging with your audience, then the platforms kind of look at you as, oh, well, they're not really serious about engaging with the audience. So we've got to kind of go down a bit. We've got to limit their appearance in our For You pages and things like that. So it's highly competitive in terms of content. I would suggest at least making the plan out for it for 30 days and posting daily so that you can keep up the engagement for your companies.
Okay. And that relates to the question Peace asked about how to attract more audience when using Reels. So is that basically your advice is to make sure that you're posting them on a regular basis, and what other advice would you offer for people using Reels?
Sure. So one of the things is a lot of people are concerned about negative feedback or comments or negative reviews because they're more present. Honestly, you're going to get that regardless. The best thing that you can do is you can use Reels, you can use content like this to address some of those concerns. You always want to use positive content to offset the negative. Don't be off put by negative reviews because you have to think about it. Everyone's not going to like your product. They might try it and it doesn't fit for them, but you always want to say, hey, I'm concerned. But in terms of when you create it, you want to be as consistent as possible. You want to make sure that you're entertaining as possible. You don't have to do dances and you don't have to, do the latest trend on TikTok or the latest trend on Instagram, but you want to capture that person who's scrolling down the timeline, just kind of mindlessly scrolling to give them something interesting. So that's why studying the angles of the content, studying the lighting, the type of content is very, very important. And this is something that you want to keep on top of on a regular basis. If you see something that works and hits it out of the park, you want to try and test that thing again. If it hits out of the park the second time, then you have your formula and you want to recreate content, different content with the same format so that you're keeping your audience engaged. You see a lot of that on TikTok where you have people that make very similar videos but with different content. That's what you want to do. You want to find out what your formula is quickly, engage, and be consistent.
Great. Yeah, and I'm thinking of one of my favorite social media personalities is the guy Aussie Man, and
Yeah,
his videos are definitely mostly locked into a format of taking clips from other internet sources and doing an audio commentary over them, and it works for him. So um, you find out what works for you and make that a kind of a consistent practice and a formula, as Bernadette said. Um,
absolutely.
Mark, I'm going to ask this last question before we have to move on. Mark asks, starting out in digital marketing, would you suggest that he specializes in a particular field like SEO, or should he learn several different disciplines across digital marketing?
Um, Again, I would defer back to what is your dream job? What do you want to work in? Because if you're not interested in SEO, you're gonna burn out quickly. What interests you the most? And if you're just kind of tipping your toe in, you might want to just take maybe, a light class to start and then say, okay, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in this, and then maybe go into a specialization. It's just like being a doctor. You have generalists or general practice doctors, you have heart surgeons, you have optometrists, you have gynecologists, you have all of these different specializations. You have to figure out which one that you're most passionate about. And unfortunately, there's no kind of cookie cutter way to that. I see a question out of the corner of my eye. Yes, there's heat mapping for mobile apps. If you Google them, there's a ton of them. But for sure, you definitely want to explore all areas if you're not locked into something first. Figure out which one you're most passionate about and go from there. For myself, I love media buying and I love content creation. So those are things that I can do all day, not feel like I'm working, feel like I'm playing. I love going out, taking my phone out, my gimbal out, my camera out, taking pictures of stuff, putting it together, editing it, and posting it on TikTok. These are the things that I enjoy doing. So you don't want to feel like it's work or that you're pressured or things like that.
Okay. And we have a question from Shruti that I wanted to address, which is, when writing content, how do you write faster with a lot of engaging content? And that's a big part of my job here at Simplilearn. So I can offer that um, you just have to be good at writing, and you have to look for a lot of different ideas out in the world, in terms of what's in the news, what's on social media, what are people talking about or interested in hearing about, and you also need to be able to turn to other people who can help you with the actual writing if you get overwhelmed, people like freelancers. What would you add to that, Bernadette?
I was just going to say, definitely, if that's not your role in digital marketing, then I would definitely outsource content writing. I would use a properly vetted platform. You don't want things like bots or things like that creating. I'm a little iffy about PLR, which is private label writing, because lots of people purchase it. Some of them use it without even editing it. But I would go on to content creation, curation platforms, put what you want out there, and then have someone that you are going to be working with long term. Because remember, content strategy and content marketing is a long term thing.
Great. With that, I'm going to move on. First off, thank you very much, Bernadette. This has been a fantastic lesson for
Thank you.
everyone. And let me go ahead and take back the screen sharing, and I
Sure.
will reshare my screen. We want to ask a second poll here. So allow me to get that up. And this poll question has to do with what people have been asking about in terms of the different disciplines in content marketing and what are they passionate about? What are you individually passionate about in digital marketing? What skills do you want to add to your toolkit? And when do you want to do that? So we've got about 20 seconds. And about 5 seconds more. Get your answers in, and I will share them with all of you. So it's interesting. SEO, about 50% of the audience, about 60% of the audience is interested in content marketing skills. 50% social media, 50% analytics, about a quarter email. So broad distribution, but a lot in content, SEO, social. And it's good to see that about 40% of the audience is interested in getting started right away. So we'll be sharing some things about how to do that. I want to share with you, again, a thank you to Bernadette. I will put into the chat here now her LinkedIn contact information. You can reach out to her through LinkedIn. And let me put that into the chat so you have that link. And you can copy and paste. And again, thank you, Bernadette, and thanks to everybody for being here. I want to let you know, for people who've asked how to get started, one of the ways is through our digital marketing master's programs. We have two of them. One of them is the Digital Marketing Associate, which is for beginners. It gets you your proficiency in SEO, content marketing, PPC, social media, all the different disciplines. And if you are interested in going deeper and adding more advanced techniques in different areas and adding more different kinds of electives for different skills, there's the Digital Marketing Specialist Master's course. I'm putting into the chat links to both the program pages and how to claim the 15% discount that you have just for being here today. So email ask us at simplylearn.net, contact one of our learning consultants there, and they can help you with questions, they can help you get enrolled, and they can help you claim that 15% discount. And we have a question from someone who wants to know more about the postgraduate diploma. That is a program that we offer in conjunction with Purdue University, it has a separate set of benefits. Unfortunately, we can't offer the discount on that program today, but you can find that on our website if that's of interest to you. And I will invite everyone to come to our next webinar if you are interested in learning about digital technology leadership. If you have friends who are interested, I know that some of you are entrepreneurs. You've asked the questions about how to build up your own companies. So this session is a good one for you. And it's with the director of IT of Honeywell. John Dunn will be able to answer a lot of questions and share a lot of his experience in that area. So that again is in the chat, the link to register for that. And with that, we conclude our webinar. We invite you to all reach out to us at our social media channels at Simplilearn on Facebook and Twitter, Simplilearn on LinkedIn. And we hope to see you at future webinars, and we hope to welcome you into the Simplilearn learning community. So again, thank you to Bernadette. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And that concludes our webinar.